Welcome to the SVG-TV news for Tuesday, May 9th. I am Khalil Cato with the details tonight. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has called for Britain's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to support reparations and apologies for Britain's role in slavery. Prime Minister Gonsalves, who attended the coronation of King Charles III on Saturday in London, England, said in an interview with the BBC that he is a proponent of reparations for native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies.
Coronation make you nostalgic for your country's links with the monarchy, or more determined to move to a new tradition for yourselves?
Well, during the service, personally, those parts of it which required incantation, I didn't do those parts. I did the parts which involved the scriptures.
But the incantation to the king, no.
The British monarch is our monarch. We do not swear anymore an oath to His Majesty. We swear allegiance to the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I would like to see very much a severing of this link with the British monarch. I don't accept, and I cannot accept, that someone who was born in the United Kingdom, grows up in the United Kingdom, lives in the United Kingdom, can be the king of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Would you go as far as saying that you now resent it?
The thing about resentment simpliciter, it can lead you easily to a journey of hatred. And the truth is this, that as an individual, I have appreciation, much appreciation for King Charles. Similarly, I'm a proponent of reparations for native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies. And he is in favor of a constructive conversation, a mature conversation.
What does that process of reparations look like to you and the people of St. Vincent?
Well, it's a complicated matter, but their legacies of underdevelopment linked to native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies, that you need to help us in a very special way in doing this repairing. We have to work in a partnership.
PM Gonsalves told the interviewer that he would welcome an apology from both King Charles and the British government on the legacy of slavery.
Look, Britain made and remade the Caribbean, and in the process remade itself. And we, from the Caribbean, when I say Britain remade itself, you walk down the streets, you see the results of colonialism and the enslavement of African bodies, the migration. You have a British Prime Minister who is Hindu, an Indian, at least of Indian descent.
Part of the argument about reparations is also the idea of apology, of saying sorry. Should the new king apologise directly?
Would the British political directorate permit him to apologise? That's an important question.
Would you like to see the Prime Minister apologise?
Of course. The Dutch Prime Minister can do it. You want to tell me a European Dutch Prime Minister can do it, but a man of Indian descent can't do it? I will find that strange.
Would you expect a Prime Minister of Indian heritage to be more forthcoming on this issue?
I would expect so. I believe he would have a great understanding of this issue. I'm not in his shoes, so I don't know what are the restraints, what are the constraints. But I'm absolutely sure that he'll have a profound understanding of this matter.
And does Britain, in the end, as more countries move towards removing the monarch as head of state, does it become diminished?
No, I don't think that diminishes Britain at all. I see tremendous promise, and I see the king, the new king, as someone who can nudge the efficient side of government.
Within the past year, political leaders in the Bahamas, Belize, Grenada, Jamaica, St. Kitts Nevis, and Antigua and Barbuda have all indicated their plans to review their positions as constitutional monarchies. In 2009, St. Vincent and the Grenadines held a referendum to decide whether to transition to a republic. 45% of voters chose to replace Queen Elizabeth II with a ceremonial president, falling far short of the two-thirds majority required. PM Gonzalez told the BBC that he would like to try again. However, it has been reported that according to a recent poll conducted in the 15 countries where King Charles is head of state, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is among those most opposed to becoming a republic. Reports are that a survey conducted by UK politician turned pollster Lord Ashcroft suggests that the idea would be rejected by a majority of 63% to 34%. The Lord Ashcroft polls reportedly interviewed 22,701 adults across the 15 countries between February 6th and March 23rd. 6 persons here in SVG are currently hospitalized with COVID-19. This is according to the latest report issued by the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment yesterday. The report says of those hospitalized, 3 are fully vaccinated, 2 unvaccinated, and 1 partially vaccinated. 5 new COVID-19 cases have also been recorded for the period April 30th to May 6th, bringing the overall number of active cases in the country to 7. To date, 9,619 COVID-19 cases have been recorded in SVG, with 9,488 recoveries and 124 deaths. In terms of vaccination, 73,443 vaccines have been administered. Last Friday, the Director General of the WHO, the World Health Organization, said he accepted the advice of the Emergency Committee on COVID-19 that the virus is now an established and ongoing health issue and no longer constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. During their deliberations on May 4th, the committee members highlighted the decreasing trend in COVID-19 deaths, the decline in COVID-19 related hospitalizations and intensive care unit admissions, and the high levels of population immunity to SARS-CoV-2. The WHO said the committee's position has been evolving over the last few months. Agricultural Officer Renato Gums is cautioning banana farmers to be careful about the types of pesticides they are using on their farms. Gums was at the time addressing the handing over ceremony of some $550,000 worth of fertilizers and pesticides to the Ministry of Agriculture from the Republic of China and Taiwan to assist with the revitalization and sustainability of the local banana industry.
Into consideration, because the countries out there are dropping the MRL levels, right? And what I mean by that, they have a benchmark they use, the amount of pesticide could be found in a product. So they keep lowering that, lowering that. And that is why we ourselves have to put systems in place where we can check these things before we send them out there. The hotels might ask for the same thing because the consumer, the hotel, the guests come from those countries. So these are things that we have to put in place as a Ministry of Agriculture to address some of the challenges which are out there and which we will continue to face. So I'm urging each and every one of us here this morning, and I say thanks to the Taiwanese government, we all have to become a bit more scientific in our approach to what we are doing. It's not traditional, nobody sympathizes with you anymore. You have to compete. And if you can't compete, well, you will die. You'll just die a natural death. So I urge all of us to let's refocus, reconsider what we are doing and see how we become more efficient in terms of our production.
Meanwhile, Agriculture Minister Saboto Caesar said in order to see a revitalization of the local banana industry, a more scientific approach has to be taken with its production.
Threats out there to the banana industry. We have black cicutoca, we have moko. Now there's now the threat of TR4, which is now in Venezuela. And we have to safeguard our industry and start putting programs in place to address these threats. And that is something we have to put in place now, Koroma. The thing is, we have to be scientific in our approach. Now, take for example something like moko. When you plant a banana field, it goes down in Moko. But sometimes you might see 1 or 2 plants surviving inside the Moko field and still performing. These are things you have to take, try and multiply them. We have to try and multiply in the tissueculture lab and see if there's actually any resistance to the disease. And we don't have to wait until the developed countries come up with something for us to adapt, you know. We can come up with something for them to adapt from us. So we have to be more scientific, we have to have a research eye in what we're doing out there in the field. I think we once had an experiment, something similar to this, but we did not sustain it. And I think it's something we need to get back to.
The Laura Anthony Brown Business Forum was hosted today by the St. Vincent Girls High School Business Department, discussing the topic, Food is Everybody's Business. The discussion, held at the NIS conference room, included business students and economic students of the Girls High School and the St. Vincent Grammar School. Deputy Headmistress of the St. Vincent Girls High School, Athalie Kane Solin, gave a brief overview of the business forum.
Our mission continues to be focused on ensuring that our students engage in a holistic program of excellence that allows them to maneuver life in the 21st century. To this end, when the GHS Business Department, headed by the creative powerhouse that is Mrs. Latoya Dereshit-John, first pitched the premise of hosting a business forum, the idea was immediately welcomed and encouraged. After she took part in the CARICOM Teachers Exchange Program in March of this year, Mrs. Dereshit-John returned with an amendment to the business forum concept. She declared, "Let's invite the boys." Now, if you know our history, you know that any mention of the boys is reference to the students at the St. Vincent Grammar School. So here we are this morning. If only it were that easy. From idea to actualization. But these things need financing. Sponsorship had to be sourced, and this came willingly from past student Miss Laura Anthony Brown.
Minister of Finance, Economic Planning and Information Technology, Camilo Gonzalez, also delivered remarks at the opening ceremony and highlights how food becomes everybody's business and the economic aspect of it.
Every one of you will eat something today. Most of you had breakfast, most of you will have lunch, most of you will have dinner. And the economic aspect of that is how much did it cost? Where did it come from? How nutritious is it? And whether or not the money you spend on it or that your parents spend on it is best spent on the things that they spent it on. Some of you will have rice and peas today. The rice doesn't come from St. Vincent. Peas might not come from St. Vincent. Some of you may have a dumpling today or some bread. The flour doesn't come from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Some of you will drink a fruta or a buster today, and the sugar in the drink doesn't come from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and the actual beverage doesn't come from St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
The finance minister further noted that the purchasing of food can have economic implications on family, money, and the economy of SVG.
Yeah, and the Edo is grown here. So when you buy it here, you're giving a farmer a job. You're giving a job to the person who transports it to the market or the supermarket. And you're giving a job to the people who prepare it in the restaurants and so on. So all of these things interconnect in a way that is important for you to understand that food and economy are one. And it's one of the cornerstones of what economics is all about. Because it's about life, living, and production. And you can't live if you don't eat. Now, you look at another side of it. We're building hotels. We're building a hotel called Sandals, which will open the end of this year, early next year. And that hotel has 350 rooms. And they tell us that every week, 1,500 people are going to come into that hotel. 1,500 people a week. By 50 weeks in a year, it's 52, but I'm trying to go for easy maths here because I'm not a grammar school student. You are talking about 75,000 additional people coming into St. Vincent and the Grenadines when this hotel opens. They're going to have to eat something.
Meanwhile, headmaster of the St. Vincent Grammar School, Colin Sam, encouraged the business students to make good use of the information provided to them at today's forum.
We are grateful that Mrs. John, you came up with the idea and that you found it fitting to invite the St. Vincent Grammar School to be a part of it. We look forward to good, intelligent, intellectual conversations and discussions here. Like I said, I didn't want to waste my words. You are the best that we have to offer in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this level, at the fourth form level, and you have to wear your intelligence with a level of pride. I look at the program and I see that we have your theme, the topic, food is everybody's business. I love the theme because we have to eat. And dealing with young men, you eat a lot, correct? And as a parent, I also understand how times have changed after COVID, the war in Ukraine, and you could connect our dots. You go to the supermarket and 15, 10, 5 years ago, what you spend $5, $50. $50, let's go with $50. You get 2-3 bags. No, $50 will just give you 1 bag.
Other presentations at the forum were made by Jimmy Ford, CEO of Couriers Distribution Limited, Julia Richardson, manager of VJ's Restaurant, and the executive director of the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, Anthony Regisford. This country recorded its 17th homicide for the year thus far last evening in Diamond. The latest victim has been identified as Nigel Thomas of Brighton. According to reports, multiple gunshots were heard in the community of Diamond at around 10 p.m. and upon investigations, the unresponsive body of Thomas was found laying in a pool of blood close to the Welcome to Diamond sign. Casman Bacchus, who goes by the alias Kaz, was a close friend of the deceased. He tells SVG-TV News how he heard about the tragic incident.
Leaving my shop, locking up, heading out, and I received a phone call that, there was gunshots. So I decided to say, well, boy, it's from my sister. So when I hear my sister, boy, himself play, boy, I just make sure I go and check on my sister. When I reach in down there, she was telling me, like, seemed like Mr. like he gets shoot and thing, so check and see what's going on. So when I go down in the yard, and reach by him, there's what's him there laying on the ground, bleeding out and thing, I try to holler his name, but it was like he done passed away already. I was too late, boy. I don't know if I tell you, boy, man don't really, argue up with nobody. Is a real, simple person, don't fight up with no thing with nobody, The man they here come, man just come by my shop every day, sit down and drink a bit. If you man know you, he might offer you something to drink and all that kind of thing. So I can't see why a man go want to do that, Trust me.
As he tries to come to grips with his friend's death, Bacchus shared a favorite memory of Thomas.
Simple, lay back. Don't make nothing bother him, Anything, when you hear a man arguing, you just smile and you hear a man arguing. Don't show like, nothing like it seemed to get him man vexed. So, it's a real cool guy, you understand? A real good chef ain't gonna lie for you, Anytime the man come here, and the man say like cook a pot, he's the one who jump on and cook in the pot and thing. I can tell you, anybody can tell you, boy. He, chef, that's he, boy. Right true, always. To be honest, the way I stand up here so talking to you, already himself, if I talking right or if I thinking straight, boy, trust me. Hit me real hard. This is something I ain't really expecting, Because we talked the night before, and then to hear the incident happening, like, trust me, I can't myself think too properly.
The Financial Intelligence Unit is celebrating 21 years of operation here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Over these years, the FIU has played a vital role in combating financial crimes and maintaining the security and integrity of the island's financial systems. On the Police Beat program last evening, Director of the FIU, Letitia Sandy, participated in a panel discussion via Zoom with Chief Investigator Corporal Javid Riviero, discussing the progress of the unit over the years. On the issue of money laundering, the FIU director said a money laundering scheme does not have to be complex or complicated, noting that many young people are often targeted to participate in this unlawful act.
Multiple young people who just got their IDs, 18, no criminal record, to collect monies for you at a money remitter. So nothing is too small to be related to money laundering, terrorist financing, or a financial crime, and we must remember that if we have a suspicion, the legislation says that we too can be guilty of assisting if you know, suspect, or have reasonable grounds to suspect. So if something seems fishy, be careful and stay away from it. Why is this person asking me to do something that they could very well do themselves? Because that is the modus operandi. That's the way money launderers operate. They separate themselves from illegal activity. So I urge all the intentions to be vigilant to ensure that they don't unwittingly become a part of a money laundering scheme. And sometimes it might be fast cash, but remember, you too can be convicted if you help somebody in any way in carrying out money laundering. And as the FIU remain vigilant, there's a national risk assessment that must be consistently updated to ensure that we know and understand what the risk is of money laundering and terrorist financing. And at the heart of our role, we have been committed for the last 21 years and will continue to be committed to protecting the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because that is our core function. Money laundering and terrorist financing are crimes that hurt us all. So we will continue to play our part in protecting you all by taking the profit out of crime.
Corporal Riviero said money laundering and other criminal offences have effects not only on an individual, but also on that should be on an individual and their family, but on the society as a whole.
The example of the young fella who may have dropped out of school, involved in drug trafficking, lost his life on a go-fast vessel. So predicate offences to money laundering include human trafficking, as I mentioned, drug trafficking, and these do affect persons. And these predicate offences have different effects. It may have an economic effect, it may have a social effect. A social effect might be we may have more addicts, drug addicts, and the pressure this will put on the health system. Yep. So when persons say that the money laundering offences are victimless, that is not true.
Thank you. Performing artist Chawali Johnson is of the view that there is a disconnect between the Carnival Development Corporation, the CDC, and the general public. This was Johnson's response to a question posed on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last Sunday on whether he feels the CDC is doing enough to promote Vintimas and support the components of the festival.
That's a good question, right? It's not about doing enough, right? Because you could do a lot of stuff, but it doesn't translate, right? Maybe what they're doing does not translate to the masses. Right now, there's a disconnect between the CDC and the general public, right? A lot of persons are saying they're tired of the personnel at CDC. You understand me? So you can't expect persons to continue to support something that they're not happy with. So sometimes persons would stay away. It's not that person don't love Carnival, have a hatred for CDC, hatred for the components, mass, pan, soca, calypso, or whatever the case may be. But sometimes you have to step away and show some tough love. If you're not happy with a certain situation, you understand me, you cannot continue to inject money and attention to it, because a person must figure, well, they come in, so we're probably doing something right. So right about now, I think there's a disconnect between, and there's, to an extent, there's a disconnect between the components and CDC.
That's right? An interesting take.
You know what I mean? Because, and I think a lot of persons, and I'm going to be, I like to be straightforward, right? Politics plays a role
When you say politics, are you referring to national politics, red, yellow politics?
National politics,
okay.
Red, yellow politics. A lot of persons...
Not institutional politics.
A lot of persons feel, well, the persons who are working at CDC are those from the red color, right? And as such, they are not asking for more because, you know, they don't want to pressure the government. You know, CDC needs money from the government to run their affairs. They need, you know, injection from, whether it be lottery, they need sponsorship from corporate SVG to do the things that they need to do. You understand me? And a lot of times, and this is from just general discussion, because a lot of persons come and hold conversations with me, persons who support the government and persons who do not support the government.
Johnson said he also believes that the government can do more for culture in SVG, including Carnival, while music producer Lester Iroha, who was also a panelist on the program, believes the CDC has been positioned for failure.
Everyone knows that Chiwali would have sang a song in favor of the government, the current government, and I would have voted for the current government. However, I am a citizen of citizens and I have to hold the government accountable when I see they're not doing something that the general public does not appreciate, right? So I believe the government can inject more into Carnival, you understand me, so that, and they also have to hold the persons at the CDC accountable when they fail. They cannot be failing for year upon year upon year, and there's no repercussion. There's no change in personnel. You understand me? No one has been asked to resign. No one has been fired. You understand me? These are the things people are looking at. So then, if you're just looking at it from just the average man, okay, they ain't doing the job right. That is his belief. But they're still working. Something wrong. Somebody in cahoots with someone. That's the mindset. So there's a disconnect between the people and the CDC.
Lester, what are your thoughts? Do you think changing the CDC would give Vincentians new hope as it relates to CDC and its functions?
If we are just going to swap out personnel in the current framework, you know what I mean, structure that exists currently, I think we're just going to go back down the same road. I think there needs to be a serious overhaul when it comes to this. What I'm about to say might not be popular, you understand? But I think, in a way, CDC does get a lot of licks. I just give CDC a lot of licks. But at the same time, I think CDC is positioned for failure. And I'm going to explain why I say that. CDC needs a clear mandate, and I don't think CDC has that. Some people think CDC is supposed to promote Carnival. Some people CDC is supposed to protect the components. And some of these objectives tend to fight each other. You understand? So I think we need to really dissect everything and really reevaluate what it is that we really are looking for.
Iroha says there has always been a disconnect between the CDC and some components of Vincimas, with everyone fighting for a piece of the pie when there is no pie to share.
I personally have always been of the view that the components themselves, and I know a lot of the components ain't gonna like me for what I'm about to say, but a lot of the components need to be weaned off CDC. We can't have a Calypso association where up till today they can't pay for sound system for their mass tents, and they think their whole thing is entertainment. You have a mass, you have a Calypso tent full of Calypsonians, and CDC still has to take the same money that they have to go and beg government and Latofa to come and put a sound system and whatever for your resources for you to have a tent show. No, you have a tent full of Calypsonians, entertainers. People pay. You're supposed to create a product or a landscape or environment where people come and they support and patronize you. So it shouldn't be a dependency situation. I also have that same opinion across the board. When it comes to pan people, A lot of people don't know this, but my musical journey started in pan. I started playing pan in 1996 in grammar school. You understand? So I am a passionate man when it comes to the components, you know. I am involved in a mass band as well. You understand? So when it comes to Carnival, I get very passionate. But I tend to see things from a different point of view. I believe if we have all of the components them strong and self-sufficient to a certain extent, what that does now, it frees CDC to pool or direct funds and resources towards other things, towards promoting the events better. And I know that, and when it comes to that, see, I have a lot Julius I could give CDC licks on in terms of promoting and pushing CDC, pushing Vinci Mass as it relates to overseas to get people to come to Vinci Mass and so forth. There's a long laundry list, so I don't even want to go through that because that's a whole show by itself. You understand?